These 3 cinematic reels all have crazy effects in them. And in this video, I'm gonna break down how every one of them is made. Because Ryan Reacts is the show where I break down how insane content is made to keep me inspired and to help you steal what actually works. Now, if you're new here, I'm Ryan. I'm an editor, agency owner, and content creator. And before we get into today, I wanna make a quick deal with you. If at any point you catch yourself thinking, man, this is pretty good, I just learned something new, do me a favor and smash the subscribe button for you, because honestly, it helps more than you know. We're working on a lot this year with a course and a community to help you get feedback. And all of that really becomes much easier when the subscriber count grows along with what we do. So with that little ramble, let's dive into the first video of today. And before I do, we've got another Hooks of the Week coming up, and I've got another strategy tip for you that should help you start standing out more. So if you're looking forward to that, stay around to the end, will you? Video 1. 13 seconds, but so fucking slick. Like, I absolutely love the sound effects in this one in particular. It's super underrated, and I can pretty much assure you all of the sound effects were added in post. So what's going on here in this hook? This is called the 4 frames of 3 hook intro, and it kind of speaks for itself. You got 4 videos of 3 frames each, all with the same zoom in on it to basically act as a pattern interrupt. Now, the reason you need pattern interrupts is because you need to understand that when you're on social media, you're trying to break habits. It's not just about making fantastic content, but it's also about breaking the habits of people simply mindlessly scrolling all the time. And in order to do that, something called a pattern interrupt helps a lot to, I suppose, trigger people to pay attention again. Now, there's a couple of different structures. There are some that say start with 8 frames, then 4, then 3, then 5, 4, and then there's a couple that say start with 4, 4, 4. This one is the 4 videos of 3 frames each. There's a variety of ways to do them, but all of them work the same way. So how would you go about making something like this? Honestly, it's quite simple. What you're gonna need is something to clamp your camera to. There are a variety of different tools. I'm gonna take this camera and show you what I use. Something like this, which is a top-down shot. Now, in this case, I can clamp in a phone here and just shoot down here. I could take this part off and shoot it with my camera. You can use a tool like that to create a top-down shot, and then you have to make sure that the lighting stays consistent, as well as the exposure. So make sure to lock all of these aspects in to avoid minimal color changes. And then you basically press record, you just let it run, and you place the object, in this case, a plate, or what else does he have? Plate, different plates, parsley. You place it in the center point. Little trick that I could recommend in order for you to optimize this shot is put down a tiny bit of tape, and then always try and get your object in the center of that tape. That way you always know how to more or less perfectly align each time. And then you're just cutting out the frames in between and lining them up, and that's how you would create this kind of shot. Suppose it's a slight variation on the match cut. This little trick of changing frame, super smart. I think very underrated, and of course, extremely easy to do. You just make a duplicate of the frame, put the saturation to 0 so it goes from color to black and white, and you make it slightly smaller. You try to, the best of your ability, to still kind of somewhat line up the circle. Unique trick to kind of re-drive focus. Same trick again here, similarly to the top-down shot, only this time he's chosen to add depth by making the picture, or the video in this case, smaller every time. Same as here, right? You just do this by cutting all of the spaces in between as he's placing the prawns, and only showing like 3-4 frames at a time, maybe a bit longer actually. That's how you really maintain pace through short videos like this. Now, of course, final thing that I said at the start, something that shouldn't be underestimated in this video is the sound effects. Those kind of quick click-throughs is what actually make this video feel more enjoyable. If you would remove all of those, it would feel kind of weird to look at this. There's a variety of different sound effects that you could use. You really have to search. A tool that I always use for great sound effects is Artlist. I'll add though, it's kind of expensive. There are a couple of free ones. Let me know in the comments if you want me to name those. Cool, that was video 1. Moving on to video 2 right away. And it's a guy that I've honestly been fanboying a little bit. It's my boy John again. Fucking crazy again. First part you can kind of figure out. We can do without Higgs field, but there's a large part in here that we'll need access to an AI tool for. So this first segment, he undoubtedly shot it at more or less the same time. And then this shot here, what he's done is he probably has an RGB light, made the room blue. I think he probably is lighting to the roof and the blue is bleeding into his room. I also think he has a projector. I'm pretty confident this is not his actual window, but this is just like a layer that you put on top of your light in order to project window looking things onto your wall. Same goes for the next layer, which he's then turned the lights to orange to resemble that it's morning again. So that's the kind of coloring that you get into the room, not to be underestimated. Coloring makes a massive difference to the look and feel of a shot. In terms of how to create these bars, you could probably screenshot a notification on Instagram. You could also just recreate these in Canva. I've done that a few times myself. What you then need is to use the basic 3D effects, play with the swivel in order to get them to stand sideways, and play with the tilt in order to get them to lean back or forth, and then kind of just place them. Now what John is fantastic at doing that you shouldn't underestimate is adding natural depth through means of blurs. So for example, you'll see that this one, which is closer to the camera, is more blurred because he knows that the real focus is on John and this area. And so the same way a camera operates in that this here is more blurred than I am, and equally when I put my hand to the camera, I'm obviously more blurred. You want to mirror to the best of your ability the depth of field that a normal camera shows, and you can add this in after the fact. These tiny details is what takes it from amateur to a fucking pro. That being said, he's also added in the logo a couple of times and used more or less the same effect. Finally, how do you get the glow effect to it? There is a setting in Premiere called glow. If you throw that on top, it will give this like shininess to it that we're currently seeing here. What you could also do alternatively is play with the shadow on the effect and give it like a white tint, and then put the blur to extremely high. That will also give a similar halation around your effects. Very creative shots using a macro lens and clever positioning, right? In case you don't know what a macro lens is, it's basically a lens that's used to make details pop. So it makes extremely small things look big. You can imagine the real big lenses that wildlife photographers use. That is just a super macro lens, and then you also have them smaller, for example, at an 80mm. I would recommend using a lens like that in order to get these kind of detail shots to ensure that things like your fingers, etc., stay in focus the right way, or when getting the shot of his eye here. So how would I go about filming something like this? You probably first need some sort of camera that allows you to get a POV. Depending upon your budget, depends upon how well you can do this. So one version might be the Ray-Ban glasses. They are obviously with built-in cameras. Some people, however, don't have the money for that. An alternative, honestly, could be, and I've done this before, to simply tape your phone to the top of your head. Or if you've got glasses, you could probably like lock them in between here. There are also smaller cameras, things like a GoPro, or there is Insta360 Pro, which I have, that has a small clip which you can put on your cap, allows for a similar POV shot. It depends really on what you want / what your budget is, but you need that footage if you want to mimic this approach. Figure it out for yourself. And then we're just going to add in some additional screens. As you can probably guess by the context of this video, the clips that he's showing are thanks to some updates that Higgsfield has made in order for you to be able to create these kind of shots. So a shot like this might be something along the lines of make it look like I'm falling from the sky. I'm currently in the process of learning about AI and how to make good creative AI prompts. It's something I'm thinking of trying to get in touch with an expert and do some sort of live stream on, or like online workshop. If that's something you'd be interested, let me know in the comments down below and I'll definitely be sure to try and set that up. Something like this is still relatively easy to do. You could just set your phone up in one spot on some sort of green screen and then add a green screen on your phone, and then you can kind of place them after creatively while you rotate around your phone. If you want to do this manually, again, judging by the nature of this video, you can probably set it up in Higgsfield. There's another tool called Rotato, which you can download. I think you pay for one time and then you can use it and do things like on a phone, on a laptop. You can create these 3D zoom effects. So it depends a little on what you're looking for. So John, that was a little bit less for me to figure out, but I'm trying to understand if you guys are interested in AI, and if so, I'm going to try to learn more, but also share more with you guys in the meantime. So if that's interesting, comment down below and we'll get into that. And John actually gave me the inspiration for this week's strategic showdown. And that is, if you're a creator and I covered your username, would people still know it's you? Would they still know it's your content? That's not me insulting you, that's a strategy problem. And it's something I've been sharing with most of my clients. They're getting it for free. Because you see, most creators are obsessed with reach, but not with recognition. And yet it's only recognition that, from my experience, is the real moneymaker. And John is a great example. If you were to essentially post the same video on a different page, people would still know it's John just by his style. And it also means that when people steal John's style, they know they've stolen from John. So how do you actually go about building recognition? Well, here's what I'd recommend. Well, first, it's about topics you talk about. So make sure to speak about the same thing multiple times. And ideally, try not to change your opinion from them too often. What do I mean? If you say AI sucks and you prefer when everything was analog, then don't go using AI in order to make an edit the week after. This is going to be confusing messaging to people. 2, what else works? Recognizable delivery. Now, this is by far the thing that makes John be so top of mind when it comes to this kind of stuff, is because his crazy typography, his crazy sound effects, but also his pacing, his tone, his rhythm, all make you feel like it is a John video. And you can do this already in the pre-production when you're writing your script. As a rule of thumb, I say that if someone else could read your script and it still works, it's probably not distinct enough. And then third, say the thing other people soften. Recognition comes from conviction, not balance. That means pick ideally 2 or 3 things that you believe more than everyone else and repeat the shit out of them, because people remember clarity. So to sum up, start reinforcing what sounds like you every time. Because fame is reach, but power, that's recognition. And with that being said, let's get into video 3 and the last video of today before we close with hooks of the week. Video 3. So talented, man. So crazy good. How do we go about creating this shot? First of all, you're gonna need 6 shots in total and an RGB light in order to do this well. Especially this spotlight is surprisingly easy, and all you need is a toilet roll, an empty one. I've done this before. It's also a way to do it with just a flashlight, and that is basically taping the toilet roll around your flash on your phone. Now, obviously, if we want it with color, we'll need an RGB light. The same principle applies, but a lot of the time these RGB lights, they are too big for it to fit into a toilet roll. So you might have to play around with that. Otherwise, you'll need some sort of thing that directs the light in order to get this spot. And then you'll need 3 different clips of you doing whatever it is that you want. And equally, you'll need 3 clips of your eye being recorded, again with a macro lens, as we discussed earlier in this video. And each time you'll need to change the color of your light once again in order to highlight your face accordingly. You might be able to zoom this in, but honestly, I think you'll end up with a pixelated shot. So if you want to do it well, either by using a macro lens, or if you don't have that, shooting a close-up with your camera. So how would you go about recreating this? I honestly don't know how he's gotten this screen done like this, but in order to get the like floating effect, this is something we've discussed before. So what you do is you basically have 2 boxes, one here, or well, in his case, maybe he just has 1 big box actually. And the front of the box, to kind of paint it in, the front of the box is painted green. You get the point. And then you, in post, use the Ultra Key tool to get rid of the green, and this is going to make it look like you're floating. Now ideally you want it shot on something quite dark. You'll probably have like a black background for this, and then you're going to create the movement with your legs. And then you have to remember, when you think out the shot in advance, to light your face accordingly. So if he knew this is the look that he was trying to go for, he knows that he will have also set up his light to basically light his front of his face this way to resemble the screen reproducing the light onto his face extremely bright. And in this case, over lighting, because that was the type of effect that he wanted to achieve. So this effect I thought was actually the one that stood out to me. It was something I hadn't covered before, and I figured I would share. And it's actually surprisingly simple. It is called the spot color effect. And there's a few different ways that you go about doing this, but I figured I'd share the one that I use the most. And that is through means of Ultra Key and a matte. So what are the steps? Step 1, use Ultra Key to isolate the color. Step 2, convert it into a matte. And then step 3, you'll need to drag that matte on top of the black and white base layer in order to get your effect. Honestly, it might sound complicated, but it's easier than you think. So this effect is obviously an extension of the one that we just discussed, in which the difference between this one and the previous one is he's obviously moving his legs in a more over-the-top manner, if you will, and then he's keyframed himself to go from top to bottom rather slowly in order to sell the effect as if he's falling. Other than that, the rest of the tricks are just, bear in mind this stuff is incredibly difficult to obtain, but it's nothing that you'll need editing for. You'll have to dive more into cinematic lighting and great composition in order to achieve the same look, but it's not necessarily going to be an editing thing. And with that being said, it's time for the closing segment of today, and that is hooks of the week. So I've collected 3 hooks this week that stood out to me as I was scrolling on my feed, getting my daily dopamine addiction. And I figured I'd share them with you. So if you like any of them, feel free to steal the ideas and use them in your own content. Hook 1. A POV shot. As discussed already today, use some sort of tool. Maybe it's even just gluing your phone to the front of your head in order to mimic what your eyes see. Hook 2.
This is day 20 of Film My Life Cinematically. Today I've done it. I've buzzed.
Now there's actually 2 hooks here. One could be to shave your head. Now I wouldn't recommend it, but if you're willing to, and if you have receding hairline like I do, it might be worth it. If, however, you don't, then the alternative hook could be use something, can be anything. I know the same guys used leaves before to spell out a word or 2 words or a sentence even that helps people read something when the video starts in order to hook them, because we process what we read and see way quicker than what we hear. So having some sort of text on screen early on is a good hack to hooking people early. And then finally, hook 3.
Low-key, the best meal I've ever had.
The hook in this case I felt like was a top-down shot looking up. Somehow this angle feels a little different from what we see normally, so I figured I'd share, and feel free to try in your own content. And that was hooks of the week. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of Ryan Reacts. If you at all caught yourself thinking, wow, this was great, I learned something, I really enjoyed myself, remember the deal we made at the beginning, would you? And smash the subscribe button. And with that being said, I'll see ya in the next one. Adios.